So, from manufacturer to ultimate consumer, the main link in our economic system are the salesmen. Salesmen.
Hey everybody, I'm Clint. Welcome to another episode of the Salesman's Guide to Beer and Business. Today, we have the e-commerce manager for American Outdoors. We also have a previous owner of a bar. We're not going to tell you the name. Today, we have Jonathan Steffens. Jonathan, thank you for being on the show, man.
Oh, glad to be here, Clint.
All right, so Jonathan actually brought... do you want to be called John or Jonathan? What do you prefer?
Jonathan, typically.
Jonathan? Okay, I'll call you Jonathan. That's your name. All right, so he actually surprised me today with a beer. It's Winter Grind Coffee Stout by Mother's Brewing Company. Jonathan, tell me what you know about this, man.
So Winter Grind heralds from Mother's Brewery out of Springfield, Missouri. It's one of their flagship stouts. That's a coffee stout brewed with a local artisanal coffee. I can't remember the name of the coffee off the top of my head, but it's a very, very delicate blend of coffee and stout, which later just became a dominant theme in the beer industry. Mm-hmm. But I love it because for the most part, I feel like I'm drinking coffee with alcohol, honestly. The first time I really got to experience this beer is when I was working with some partners and we were going to open up this new bar here in town. After having one of those great aha moments like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we start a bar? And then before we know it, we're drinking a couple of these and it's like 5 a.m. and we're like, where has this evening gone? Where's the next beer? Go grab another one. This business plan isn't going to finish itself. And we kind of worked our way into it. And ever since, it's kind of just been, it's had a special place in our heart for this beer because we would use it to get, it was just our go-to for the longest time. It helped us get through a lot of project planning, a lot of wild ideas that we'd throw off the wall. And then when we finally got to meet the brewers and go down and see the experience, they really care about the community and the culture there. Similar to Logboat here in town, Mother's Brewing is about family. They really love what they do and the product, and they really enrich the Springfield community in what they're doing, and it shows in the product and what they do. They have a large, expansive space, and even in our market, when we work with them at the bar later after launching, they would work with us on custom beers, custom Firkins, as they're called, where you infuse different things. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just their holistic approach, which even goes to their ability to, their sales rep, was just amazing. And we love that, that personal experience they took as a brewer, no matter what market they entered, including ours. And we've kind of just supported them through because, when you have a great product, you have a great sales staff, and you have, great community enrichment. And you see that in any business, I think, where that just kind of speaks and then, just accelerates your growth on top of that.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. So I do want to talk about, you said a funny word back there, Firkins?
Firkins, yes.
Firkins. Okay, tell us about Firkins.
Okay, so Firkins, harken back to the old idea of a beer barrel. Mm-hmm. So right now, you think of a beer barrel, you think of the traditional keg, the Bud Light keg that you're carrying through to a frat party. Mm-hmm. So Firkins bring that back. Firkins bring it back. Those are the smaller barrels. Sometimes you might think of them as like a small whiskey barrel.
Okay, yeah.
But they're actually filled with beer in this particular case. So they'll take the traditional Firkins will actually be wood, be like a traditional beer barrel, but much smaller. They'd hold maybe about 30, 40 beers. And then you would use them for small batches. So as a special treat, a lot of brewers will create these Firkins. Now later, they'll make little small metallic ones now that you'll see at special events. But then you can infuse it. So for instance, this particular stouts in general are great for infusing flavors. Brewers would have so much fun at these brewery parties where it's like, all right, I'm going to take this stout and I'm going to infuse Lucky Charms or Count Chocula or marshmallows or Thin Mints. And they would make a special small batch because that Firkin would then just, contain and age those unique flavors. So they'll take the base beer, infuse it, and just kind of let it set and, and come to fruition over a set period of time, depending on the style of beer. And then, of course, because a Firkin is just compressed CO2 in a small chamber over time, the big thing is tapping a Firkin. So I challenge you sometime to actually check YouTube out and just see a Firkin tapping. So many times they go awry because it's one of those things you have to take a giant ass like Thor-ish mallet, and you take you a small little thing because you got to do it kind of like a shotgun. You have to get the pressure just right on both sides, and then if the Firkin didn't take or was over carbed and pressurized, boom, explosion right in your face and just gushers of beer everywhere. So quite a few Firkin, literally 1 in 3 Firkins would be overcarbed and pressurized and just be complete waste, but it was still a hell of a lot of fun.
No, I can see that being a whole lot of fun. I mean, that's just like, when I lived down south and I was a teenager, like blowing stuff up was fun. Yeah. And we always had beer with us. So now combining the two, now that just sounds awesome, it could blow up, guys.
It could blow up. You could be there. So like my favorite beer festivals was actually put on by one of the beers you featured in an early episode. And where we started getting into a lot of this stuff was Second Shift.
Second Shift, yeah.
So before they moved to St. Louis, they ran out of literally an old-timey western town, maybe about an hour and a half from here, because they were part of like a corporate retreat, and the corporate retreat was western themed.
Oh, that's cool.
And they had family there, and they literally rented out part of the saloon of the western theme and put the brewery inside it.
Oh.
And that's where they incubated the whole idea, where Kreider incubated the whole idea of Second Shift. And then he would hold a festival there during the off season when they wouldn't book the western town for corporate retreats, and would hold what was called as a Firkin Fest, effectively.
Yes.
And he eventually self-named it Kreider Fest. And it was an industry festival where all the sales rep, all the brewers would come in and bring their specialty Firkins all to be tapped at once over a great roaring fire.
Oh, heck yeah.
And you got to taste so many different things. Slowly over time, they added more and more, public access to it before. But, when it first started in infancy, it's just like brewers only, then distributors and brewers only, and then just slowly grew. And now it's just a giant celebration of all things Second Shift and what they're doing in their new facility.
Yeah.
Firkins are still a huge part of it, but, I will still never forget those particular moments because you're tapping one after another after another. It's like...
We, me and my wife, we actually went to the liquor store and picked up some of their hibiscus beer.
Yeah.
And I was awestruck and now I think she liked it, but she wasn't just like, oh my gosh, I can drink this every day. She was like, that's good.
Yeah.
Moving on, I was kind of like, I want to go get more right now. Like, can we go get another one? You know?
Yeah.
But no, and that was kind of, I think their more popular ones was the hibiscus. And I'm probably going to do it on the show again pretty soon. I got to figure out when that is, but no, Second Shift Brewing is definitely a brand to check out. I was very impressed, especially with episode 1 we did their technical ecstasy.
Oh yeah,
and it is delicious. So
his IPAs are amazing for what they're working on.
See, you already said the magic words. I love IPAs.
But he does a lot of good stuff. He does great IPAs. He does great Belgians. I mean, he does, Kreider and the rest of the crew there take such a unique, nuanced approach to beer. One of my favorite beers that he did, I'm going to say this wrong. It's like Molyneux. And it's got great artwork from the Art Collective, where it shows a great old like Ford truck, like 1960s style. And then every time he did the beer, he changed one thing, and it was typically a strain of yeast. But the entire series, no other brewer was doing that. He would just like every time I do the batch, I'm going to change one thing. So every time he re-released another set of it, it was different. And you got to taste just one little thing. And he'd tell you what it was, but it's just like, it's like little nuancy stuff that you don't see that in the industry,
Yeah, it's either a really big change or they're staying exactly the same doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
That's cool. So Jonathan, what is your favorite beer? All time. I mean, all-time favorite beer.
You can't say all time. See, I had my stock answer. I ran a beer bar. So my political answer, since I'd always have to deal with all my sales reps, would be the beer in my hand. So it's
of course.
It's the beer in my hand.
Yeah, okay. Now you're starting to sound like Jacob.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So But no, this is probably it. I mean, obviously, you're going to go in on fads here and there, but this is the reason why I kind of carved this one out, just because, every beer's you and your palate's going to change from day to day.
Yeah.
But this one I had a personal connection with, and I still drink every year when it comes out and look forward to it.
Okay, so Winter Grind is your all time favorite.
Yeah, I just wish they'd take the word winter off it, honestly.
Yeah, because I mean we're coming out of winter now.
Yeah, we're coming out of winter. I don't want people to think of it as a seasonal. I mean, you can go ahead and backdate this podcast to say that it came out in November. Who cares? They're like, why are you drinking a winter beer in spring? It's like, because it doesn't matter.
Because we drink beer year round.
Yeah. Don't let a label fool you. We don't live by labels.
Okay, so that was good. I like that. Okay, so tell us about the bar. That's the name of your bar. It's called the Bar.
Yeah.
And it's secret. But tell us why you wanted to start that bar.
It's kind of a cliche. You're with a group of friends and you go, oh, let's start a bar. Let's call it Puzzles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How I Met Your Mother reference if you get that one there.
Yeah.
I was working in IT and marketing, and this was maybe like 10 years ago, and me and my friends would constantly go out at lunch, take a wingding challenge or something else like that, and we always go to the local liquor store, and we all would buy a 6-pack. Because that's all things were, and craft was still kind of getting ready and boom. We weren't at the height that we were a couple years ago. And then we'd all buy a 6-pack, and then we'd all change out and trade. So we'd have a mix of 6. Now mix of 6 is ubiquitous at almost every grocery store, and you name it. But at the time it wasn't. And we're like going, all right. So that kind of just like was the germination of an idea of a bar. And then that group of friends changed a little bit, and then I got another group of people and was like, hey, I have this idea. Let's make this idea of a mix of 6 something different. And so we started a beer bar about 6 or 7 years ago with the idea that you can drink any beer that you walk in, but you can also mix a 6 and just take it out. So it was a great idea. Got it, it worked in my passion of marketing and entrepreneurship, worked into my other partner's idea of logistics and customer service and sales and that kind of aspect. And really, it's like, who doesn't want to own a bar?
Really? I mean, I would, but I've heard there's so many struggles in owning a bar, and I mean, like we talked with Jacob, the red tape can be never ending.
The red tape can be never ending, and that was the beauty of working with Jacob. He made the red tape gone. Mm-hmm. They say that when you're scaling any business, choose the thing that you can do, but make sure you know what you can't do and you outsource it. That's where Jacob came in. Whether you're running a bar, restaurant, distillery, winery, brewery, whatever, that's what he was able to take care of. So we had to come in and try and fix the other 90%. And like any small business owner, you have to be a master of a myriad of things. Whether you're running your own dealership or whatever, you need to know the finances, the taxes, the payroll, the distribution, the inventory management, all those particular things, which you pick up and are beautiful life skills, but not something that you learn in Ecom 101 in high school.
Yeah.
Which I feel is something we need to work a little bit better for, because that's the American dream, is to run your own business and have that skill set, and you only get it by doing it.
Exactly. No, 100% on that. That's for sure. I mean, even today, and we talked about this earlier. Me and my wife were talking about wanting to open up a bar and grill. When we were younger, we've both been in the restaurant business for. Her mom and stepdad used to work in catering, and they ran their own restaurant. I mean, they're still in the food business today. My dad was a district manager for 13 Pizza Huts. So I mean, I grew up in Pizza Hut. I mean, pizza was our life. So yeah. I mean, we've both grown up in restaurants. Wanting to continue that now is just something we're like, we think we could do it, but we may not have all those skills like you were talking about.
Yeah, and you just have to be able to build the team or build the resources to get you to growth and scale. I mean, that's kind of where it is. And yeah, if I had to do it over again, we would definitely have a food element. We tried to actually incorporate that midstream. It didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But had we done it, the problem is none of us actually had the food restaurant. But as we learn more and more, how do you grow the market? How do you make an experience? Because at this point, if you're running a restaurant, if you're running anything, at the end of the day, you're still in the hospitality business. And in this modern day with millennials, when you're trying to sell a millennial, whether you're trying to get them to go out to dinner, buy a car, or buy a Patagonia sweater, you're still conveying a lifestyle and experience to them. So that's what you were doing. If they're going to walk in, you are selling them that experience and that lifestyle that they're wanting to do. And more often than not, if you're going to be in restaurant or bar, you need to feed them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to make your bar or your atmosphere or your dealership a friendly, safe environment that they feel comfortable in to spend their money.
Oh yeah,
that's what it comes down to. You've got to convince people to spend money. Okay, doesn't matter what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
So I agree with that 100%. I mean, in today's world, even like you were saying with millennials, I mean, it's you have to appeal to them on so many different levels, and even if they don't have the money, and I hate to say it that way, they'll still probably go out and get a beer at the end of the night.
They'll do it because I mean it's escapism. Because I mean you that's my other job. You still have to work on it. Almost anything you want these days, you can point and click and buy. Yep. So if you're gonna actually go out and enjoy the experience, whether it's in hospitality or something else, they're doing it for the experience or for the brand loyalty that they've invested with you because you're local or because you're an expert on the matter or just because it's something fun you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean everybody's looking to have a good time, be treated the way they want to be treated, whether that's possible or not. Because you've probably had some upset customers before.
Yeah,
I think just about everybody has. But I mean they're looking for. And I love the way you say it, that experience, that you've got to, entice them to buy your product. And you've got to, I mean, that's the way I think everybody buys products today. They look at themselves using that product. Like if it's a hoverboard or if it's a new car or if it's Patagonia jacket, like they're like, how can I use that? Yeah. I would look so good in that. Got to have it right now.
Oh yeah.
Click, 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 bought it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of your other job. You're the e-commerce manager for American Outdoors, right?
Yeah, American Outdoor Brands here in town.
So with that, I mean, you've obviously got to find those ways or know those ways to make people click on these products online, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, the psychology is still the same. You're still nurturing that customer experience, whether you're greeting them with a friendly face as soon as they walk into your establishment or you're presenting a really good presentation of your product on your website and having it merchandised well to the point where it gives them all the information that they want to see. Does it have reviews? Does it have recommendations? Does it have what it works with and what it doesn't work with? People need more information before their intent to buy or to walk into your establishment. And that's what I do on the digital side of these things is putting all that up front so they can make an informed decision and engage with that particular product or brand.
So in your field, how do you do that? What are some of the e-commerce things you could do to better yourself? So say you've got a salesperson and they're trying to grow their Facebook personnel. What would be some suggestions you could give to them to make their Facebook more appealing, or say if they've got their own website, what can they do?
I mean, it really comes around content. So, I mean, this podcast itself is content. You put something out there that enriches their experience or answers a question that they came to you for. At the end of the day, a lot of e-commerce is actually answering a question that somebody Googles or asks their Alexa to say, how do I do this? Or what helps me accomplish this problem or enriches my lifestyle? So we're constantly working on content that, makes it just more than just, hey, buy my product. I gave you a good price. You want that? You can go to Amazon, eBay, Walmart all day. As a direct-to-consumer brand, you want to be able to give them a little bit more because you're still if someone's going to make their decision only by price, then that's not enough. You that as a salesman.
Absolutely.
When you're working for a dealership, your price. You mentioned that dealership's the same dealership's another 20, 30 miles down the road. So you got to say, why is your experience with me here on my website better than going to somebody else's? And that's starts with the content, giving them that that rich experience, the how-to videos, the questionnaires, the FAQs, that kind of aspect. And then also then conveying it with, brand intent and how that's going to enrich their experience. So say we're, selling them a new tree blind, selling them, a new everyday carry knife that they're going to carry with them. How does that match with them?
Mm-hmm. No, and I like that because in the bigger sales world, like in cars, motorcycles, something you can't just buy online. You actually have to go talk to somebody in person to buy it or pick up the phone, whatever. You've got to be able to establish that you're going to be there after the sale. And even on e-commerce side and with Amazon and big companies like yourself, you've got to have their back after they purchase.
We do.
So and I mean, getting people to believe you, I believe is the hardest thing, because I've heard it a million times and no follow through on that. I mean, when we talked about this before on another episode, when my wife bought her first car, salesman was sleazebag, ripped her off. It was a crappy car. It started breaking down the day she bought it. And it was a bad situation. And he eventually just threw his hands up, said, "I'm just a salesman. I can't do nothing. I'm not going to help you."
Yeah.
Like, that's bad salesmanship, and that's my opinion on it. But
well, one of the big things that I love about this is the idea of retention marketing, which works, online and otherwise. So when we first moved here 10 years ago, we first bought our house. You see this all the time with real estate agents. The moment we bought our house, our our agent left us a loaf of fresh bread and a cutting board, so the house smelled of fresh bread.
Oh,
Great.
that's cool.
But then a year later, we got another loaf, and then the year after that, flowers or a calendar, whatever. And every year in succession. We haven't sold our house in 10 years, but we know who we're calling if we're going to do it. Yeah. And that's because it's a touchstone. It's the point of mind. Same thing when you're making that first sale as a salesman. You check in, hey, did you get your car maintenance? Are you interested in this? Oh, we got a recall. We do the same thing direct consumer brands, which is not something Amazon can do as well when you're doing a clearinghouse. So if you're buying from brand X, we have the ability to say, hey, thanks for buying our product. Every month or so, we'll send you, here's new things you can do with that product. Here's an add-on that goes to that product. So it's enriching, and one of the metrics that we love to track is the idea of lifetime value for that customer. And what can we do? What incentives and what enrichment can we give the customer to increase that lifetime value, to make that new order, that next order, and go from there, but not just make it about the incentive. It's making them be more of a brand advocate for us, because we're constantly enriching their lives.
Well, and we talked about this exact same thing, and I love talking about it because the person you sell to and you take excellent care of, you've gotten them exactly what they need. Say they bought a really nice knife from you, okay? Yeah. And you showed them how to use it, how the sheath works, how to sharpen it properly. You went through everything correctly, okay? And then month later, hey, how's that knife doing good for you? Yeah, okay. 3 months later, call them again. Hey, man, still everything going good? You know anybody who wants another knife like that? I got a warehouse full of them. Need to get rid of them. Hey, 6 months down there, do the same thing. The constant connection on that. When I was early on, and they sent us to a Chrysler training course, the instructor told us that. Yeah, he said, either get a copy of the buyer's order from the car you sell, call them 30 days after the purchase, about the time for the first payment. He said, go ahead and, go over everything, make sure they understood everything. If they had any questions, tell them come in. You'll go over it all again. He said, and then write down anything else you talk about besides the car. Yeah. He said, and then call them again in 3 months. Oh, yeah, how's your daughter Susie doing? She's still on the T-ball team? She do good last year? Yeah, okay, you've got a checklist there. He said, you just keep that. Just keep it in your desk. It's one piece of paper. If you sell 30 cars a month, that's 30 pieces of paper. That's this big, Yeah. So, I mean, he explained that, and it was just like, and then keep it to a year basis. If you get the customer doesn't answer, okay, they're not answering anymore. You just keep going. But to be able to connect with those customers after the sale is super important, because it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, Anybody looking for a knife, a car, a bike, a camper, whatever it is you're selling.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big part is those referrals and those repeat customers. Because that's what you're asking for. You're asking, I'm staying in touch with you. So if you need another car, you call me.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you know anybody who needs a car, you're going to tell them to come see me. That's how it works. So what was your biggest fear getting your own business started?
I mean, it's like anything else. When you're in charge of business, you go, hey, is this going to work? I'm hiring employees. Am I going to be able to make payroll for them? Is this, are people going to walk in the door? Luckily for us, that first day, that first year, it was beautiful. We had lines out the block for our opening. Oddly enough, when you asked me, what's my favorite beer? That was my interview question half the time for half our staff.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
It's like, what's your favorite beer? Or after a hard day's work, what's the beer you immediately gravitate for? Because it wouldn't matter if you're grabbing something crafty or if you're grabbing a Bud Select. It's like, hey, what's the beer you relax to? That kind of idea. And, but for us, it was just like going, hey, how's this work? What did we forget? Because, as a small business owner, there's so many plates spinning in the air. You go, what plate am I not looking at, or I didn't even know was there?
Yeah, which one's about to crash?
Yeah, and that's kind of how that first year is. It's like, one plate crashing every month, and you go, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing I had to be knowing about. But you learn like anything else. I imagine, I also recently first-time parent, same idea. You're like, what plate am I spinning? Raising the small human? Can I do this? Will it work? And you go, and it just worked. You find a way, and it was beautiful for that because it keeps you on your toes, having that ingenuity. And yeah, it is refreshing being your own boss. And then you realize other people are dependent on you, and you have to like constantly, all right, let's move the needle. Let's make sure we're growing this business. Let's make sure our customer experience is where we want it to be. Make sure, how can we change our product spread, change our tactics, that kind of aspect.
Yeah, no. And that's it. If you're not trying to grow, if you're just stagnant, stuck in your ways, and there is no chance of changing, you've really got to look at what you're doing and make sure you want to even be there. Because you're not doing yourself any better if you're not trying to grow.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people kind of lose sight of that in their first year in a new business or even a salesman. You need to know that you're going to have some kind of attrition rate or churn rate with your customer base to say, hey, obviously as a salesman, you're getting that first one coming in. But if you're more on a retention business, like in hospitality or something, I'm going to, for the most part, 30% of the people through the door are going to be one and done, or 90% of them are going to be one and done. So you need to be constantly working on the acquisition, knowing that people are going to drop off because they go somewhere else, they move away, even though they love your brand and they're completely brand loyal. Circumstances outside of everything means they're not coming back. So you're constantly acquiring new people coming into the market.
Yeah, and every day there's somebody going to be coming into your market, whether it's in any field. Whether you're selling solar, the solar industry is blowing up right now. I didn't realize how big it was actually getting. But there's going to be a new opportunity for everybody each day. You don't know, especially in cars. Car wrecks happen every 5 minutes now.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. That's a whole different thing. When I was reading those stats, we talked about before we were recording, the idea of the size of a category. And if you're in a service-based industry, doctor, chiropractor, auto repair, solar to a degree, a mortuary. There's a fixed market. So at that point, you just have to have a better product and service, just because there's demand no matter what. If you don't succeed in those particular service areas, that you didn't differentiate yourself enough to do it. Because those categories they're effectively evergreen. They're always going to be there.
Yeah, it's a never ending. In the 4 or 5 years I was in car sales, I had repeat customers that I'd sold a year ago. It's time for the wife a new car. Got my daughter. Yep, time to trade my truck in. I've heard it all, and it's crazy that people want to upgrade so quickly.
Oh yeah, I guess you just have to, the car industry, you just have to keep what model is hot. But people are always going to be buying. It's just what they're buying is changing.
Yeah, exactly. Some people, you know, a lot of what I sold was work trucks. I mean, I'd have people who would put 100,000 miles a year on a truck and be like, hit 100, give me another one, you know, okay, there you go. You know, it was easy because, you know, I'd already built the rapport on the first one. They're like, okay, I trust the guy, you know. I had a company who every 3 months would call me up and say, hey, I need 4 trucks. You know what I'm looking for, send them to me.
All right.
Send me the bill.
Because they're running a fleet or something.
They were an oil and gas company out of West Texas. And I mean, I've known the guy. I used to work for the guy. And when I told him I got into car sales, I actually didn't know this until I got into Chrysler brand. It was like, Ram trucks are my favorite. I was like, okay, cool. You know, let's sell you a Ram truck. So I sold him one, sold his son one, sold his foreman one. And then he was like, can you do like bulk orders? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Always, yeah.
And I did. I started working with him really closely after that. And he was just like, yeah, you know, every 3 months we're growing that fast. I'm going to need new trucks. We'll retire. We'll trade some in, whatever. Just keep them on hand. When I call, I'll take them. Wow. I was like, yes. Those are the customers you fall into, and you better not screw them up.
No.
Like the one time you piss them off, they can walk away, and then you're done. But you get those great customers like that. It's amazing.
I feel like the Dodge Ram is going to be my midlife crisis truck. Why? Is what I had a big poster when I was like 15. Like, my first car is going to be cherry red, you know, quad cab or whatever, you know, Dodge Ram. And I was like, you know, all specced out. And then never got it. First car, of course, was a beater, you know, 1990 Corolla that I then had to use to, you know, my parents just got it for me to say, all right, take this. Oh, guess what? Now you take your siblings to all their practices and shit. I'm like going, but you didn't pay for your car. It's like, you paid $1,000 for this car. Doesn't matter. We paid for it. Now go take your siblings to soccer practice.
Do what I say. It's free car.
Yeah, done. It's like, all right, fine. It's like, but it's not the Dodge. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You're going to drive it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, and I mean, I could sit here and sell you on a new Ram truck. We may do that after the show because I can tell you all about them. I'm still a Ram expert, even though I haven't done my course in 2 years, but I'm still a Ram expert. So with your job now, e-commerce manager, what's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part is just that it's, you know, they refer to it in the business as MarCom or marketing technology. It's a constantly evolving art form because we have all this technologies and these tools, you know, that you can use as a salesman. So, a lot of sales companies will use CRMs to keep track of that paper file that says, tell me about, you know, Bob Smith and his family, and so I can touch base. So it's, you know, we have so many more tools at our disposal that give us data about our customers. So we know when you make a purchase, how often you do it, how we can market to you. You know, you have that extra layer with Facebook and Google to say, hey, what are the common data points between Bob Smith and Steve Smith? And find me more customers like them so I can put our product and our advertising in front of them. So there's a lot of really just cool things you can do, and it's constantly evolving because it is the internet of how we can, you know, target customers, approach them, give them unique experiences on their different devices, because we're designing ads that will show up on your phone, your desktop, you know, text message, an ad that's on a podcast that says, hey, come check us out, enjoy this offer.
Product placement here.
Exactly. You gotta get those advertorials, those live reads, you know, to say, hey, go check out, you know, this, you know, product A, use our discount code, you know, beer salesman, and then, you know, enjoy that kind of aspect. So, I mean, there's just a lot of fun because there's a lot of channels that we look at. Traditional sales, you mostly just have the channel of them walking in, but digitally, you go where the customers are in the digital space and sometimes outside of it. Because, you know, for direct consumer, I can still send you a postcard that sends you to our website and makes a purchase, you know, kind of like you have for like an online mattress or something. Same idea. So, I mean, that's the fun thing is kind of it's still like the wild, wild west for marketing and sales, because you don't know any given day. I can find a website or a channel or a partner that I work with and uncover that rock, and I found 50,000 potential customers that I can blast an offer to and see who converts and do a particular thing. So, I mean, that's kind of it. It's still very much like an old, like a San Francisco prospector. It's just kind of like, where am I finding these customers? What can I do? And then on top of that, even with what you're improving their experience, even on the ones that you found.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just fun defining that experience as a brand for your customers. And I imagine it's even, having that same enjoyment for brands that are both online and physical, because you have to marry those two things together.
Yeah. Well, and I always thought it was cool, like you get into the analytics of that and how it all works. When I really first started noticing what was happening was a couple of years ago. I would, and it still happens every day when I'm talking to somebody. You start talking about, oh man, did you check out the new movie that came out last night? Well, then you start seeing ads pop up in your phone.
Yeah.
Your phone listens to you. I don't know if you know that. It does listen to you. And it's gonna product place ads in your Google searches, in your Facebook feeds, whatever platforms you use, it's gonna put products there because that's its job. And those analyticals and the way that works, it's always been crazy to me,
I mean, it's partly true. Yes. To some extent they're listening, but not as actively as you think. It's actually, when it seems like it's foretelling things. Yes. Sometimes if you happen to have Facebook open or Google or something else, but they're actually getting it through AI. So when you tell me your friend told you about something, well, the AI basically says, Facebook knows I'm friends with Bob. Bob loved this movie. Well, guess what? I know that Bob went online, bought that movie because I recorded a transaction or something like that. And then I have a automated campaign that markets to you about that movie because I have what's called a lookalike audience or something else. And that's where the AI says, I'm going to take all the social demographic and interaction points that I know about my customers or people who, clicked my website, clicked like on my ad, etc. And then I'm going to show a set of offers to people that are similar to Bob. And they already know you're similar to Bob because you're in his digital circle.
Yeah.
So that's, you see it all the time when you might have a conversation with your spouse. You're talking about a thing. You didn't take any action on what you talked about buying that new mattress. But maybe your spouse did.
Yeah.
But then you see the ad about what she talked about, and you go like, how did they do that to me? You're the one who Googled it. Well, it doesn't matter. The internet knows that you two live in the same household.
Yeah, you
and
shared
showing
that
you the ad now.
IP address.
So it's just simple. It's the AI making that additional connection that seems like it's clairvoyant, and that they're always listening. I mean, if you own an Alexa or a Google, well, yeah, they are always listening. But if you don't, that's how they're doing it.
Yeah, no, and I get that. I mean, the big brother government isn't listening to you, so we think.
Big corp is. Big corp is huge.
But I mean, seriously, that the algorithms and learning how to reach people and the Facebook side of all that, I've always thought was astounding. We did a small test run at my last dealership. We put in, it was like a $500 promo code to pay Google to blast out one of our videos that we had cut. And it was one of those, like, you can skip this ad in 5 seconds, you know?
Yeah.
And we recorded it knowing that, and it was like in the first 5 seconds, you're supposed to grab the attention of them. And like, we had 62,000 people, or 62,000 impressions. So the impression is how many people it was put in front of.
Yep.
And then, we had, I think, 26,000 full-length views.
Yeah.
And then we had like 6,000 interactions. So somebody who liked it or followed it to the website, or, whatever. I was like, it took $500 and 20 minutes with a video camera. We got in front of 62,000 people. It's insane.
So I can build on that example for you, because this is kind of goes in my day and kind of tells you what it's exciting about what I do. So
okay, let's do it.
So you took a basic awareness campaign and you put it out there to those 60,000 people.
Yeah.
So what would happen next is I would look at a couple different things. So first I would go, well, I'm going to take that next $500 and I'm going to run that same campaign but I'm going to make it target people, so we now know, out of those 60,000 people, 2,500 engaged with it, said submitted info request. Great. You now captured that. The marketing AI can say, target another 60,000 people that have similar qualities to those people that clicked or engaged or entered that form or walked in and actually make a sale. And then you're watching your conversion rate go up. So that first one, you might have had, 1 in 10 convert. This next round, you spent that same $500, 3 in 10 converted.
There you go.
All right, now I have a larger sample size. Now I have sample size from campaign 1 and campaign 2. Now I have a good enough sample size to say, these are the people that converted and engaged on that or accepted that offer. Now I'm going to just do a lookalike. Show me the next 60,000 just people who converted and spend the next $500. Then you see your return on investment go a little bit up and you get more qualified leads. Because at the end of the day, you're selling a house, you're selling a car, you're wanting qualified leads. And that's what digital marketing is at the end of it.
Exactly.
You're working through. And it's constantly working through those little logic trees to say, oh, dang, if I uncover this, if I add this next one tweak or this one, demographic information to this Venn diagram, what can I look at? And then what if I told you of those 500 people that converted, what if Facebook or Google or your own survey already told you, well, how many of them were men over 50 or women under 30?
Yep.
And you say, I'm going to add that to the next thing. Give me the next 60,000 people that fit that.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you just keep peeling that onion and discovering new leads for you to kind of work with. And then you take all that same logic and then you switch it to another channel. Say you were on Facebook. Now I'm going to do that exact same process. Google, TikTok, whatever.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Well, and like I said, I mean, that's crazy because, when we did ours, the way, because like you said, we were just throwing it out there. We were trying it, we had $500 to spend in our marketing budget, and I loved the analytics we got back from it. You know, the amount of information from who, when, where, what, what state, what gender, like all of that was important because we needed to know who to market to next.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's the big thing, knowing your demographic, knowing your base, where you need to start. And like you said, you just got to peel it off one layer at a time. Okay, well, we did it this time and we got more impressions. We got more good leads. We sold a bunch of stuff, but we need more.
Yep.
Because we got to do it again next month. Okay, so where did we hit more at with those analytics? Okay, let's one step at a time. I love that. That is genius.
Oh yeah. One of my favorites to run, when I ran the bar or I consult with my fellows small business owners in this community, is one of the great untapped things that we have is, I mentioned, you have to constantly be bringing in new blood. So a lot of the advertising places such as Google or Facebook will let you say, take this ad and show it to people traveling in this territory. So I could literally say, all right, I want to show this to all people who are traveling within Columbia Mo. So we just had our big film festival this last weekend. I was consulting with a small business to say, hey, how can I get more people in the door to this? And I'm like going, let me help you set up your campaign. We're going to say, here's this great offer. Well, they're going to come into your restaurant, and I'm just going to show that offer to people who don't live here already. Because this is a well-known restaurant, and like going, I don't need to market to people who already know about me. I need to market to people that are coming in town for this one weekend. It's like, this is how you do it. They'll let you market that way. And that's great if you're selling a car or real estate, because as soon as you move, you are the biggest lead for any business to say, I've never moved here before. I need to know where do I shop for groceries? Where do I get my car? Where do I get a service? Where do my kids go to school? What's the best daycare, chiropractor, doctor, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, when you move, I mean, like us. So we moved here in October, and I thought it was so strange because we had people like the first probably month that we lived here knocking on our door. They knew we moved in. Like, how did you know? Well, you have to register. So we registered with the city of Columbia to get our trash bags and get set up with the utilities. And it was like, boom, your information is gone. And now everybody in town has sent us, let us come by and treat your lawn. Let us, walk your dog. Like the amount of things that this town had to offer, I was like, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, like we became a fresh lead to everybody.
That's actually exactly what happened when we opened the bar. I didn't even realize this at the time. So when Jacob was helping us, we applied for a liquor license and then a business license.
Yep.
Those two things are public information.
Yep. Sure.
So the moment those got filed, before we opened our doors, because that information was public, we had, sanitation cleaning, pest control, utilities knocking on our door saying, hey, would you like to set up with a new business account? And then more importantly, for our liquor license, the moment we did that, we had liquor reps for all the distributors in our territories knock our door because they have, they're monitoring that liquor license fee to say, hey, I need to be the first one in to get retail placement in your bar or restaurant to say, I want my stuff to be your top shelf. And, they're just, wrestling each other to get that placement first.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in all the sectors. And I'm like, and sometimes, even as a traditional salesman, you got to look at what's publicly available that can help you get those leads.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting from the B2B standpoint. I didn't even think about that, having been working in the community and then not knowing that until I did it. And then just seeing how things just happened.
It's always crazy. And I mean, hats off to everybody who does that, down to the guy who wants to mow my lawn, to the the liquor reps who are wanting you to buy booze from them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it takes is an unconventional way to stay on your grind, to keep going with it, because when you've got sales to make and you're in that sales industry, you've got to find ways. You've got to think outside of the box.
Oh yeah.
To keep growing. You've got to make yourself stand out. And I mean, somebody to reach out like that, they searched the public records and saw, hey, Jonathan's opening up the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run down there, see if I can't meet with him, try and sell him some booze. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That takes initiative, and that initiative is what's going to keep you growing. It's going to keep you making more money. It's going to keep you happier in life, in all honesty. Not because the money's going to make you happy, but you will feel successful doing that,
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that.
Well, it's, for those salesmen, I found out like a month later. So we had like our own class of small businesses that opened at that same time. One of the other small business was literally a hair salon, a barbershop that also had a liquor license because they wanted to say, hey, if I'm coming in for a shave and I'm waiting a little bit, I'm going to want to crack a cold one. And I had to prepare them to say, oh, you're opening in how soon? It's like, you're in liquor license just came. You're going to get bombarded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, just you need to prepare yourself and say, and all they had was a mini fridge, just a mini fridge.
Yep.
And that maybe carry like 4 beers. That's it. And it's like, and then you have like 12 reps wrestling to be one of those 4 beers they carry.
Yeah. So is that haircut in place here in town?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been there, and I've got to talk about them. So they're, what's the name of them?
Clean Cut Barbershop.
Clean Cut. I for some reason want to say Cuts and Colors. That's not it.
Nah.
It's a Clean Cut Barbershop. So I went in there one time.
Yeah.
And not saying anything bad about them. They gave me a great haircut. For some reason, and I don't know why, I went in there because buddy at work said, hey, man, go there. They'll give you a beer while you wait or while you're getting your haircut. I went in there and had the worst panic attack of my life. Have no clue why.
Wow.
I don't know what it was, and I just can't bring myself to go back now. Nothing against them. Like, they gave me a great haircut. It was a fun environment, like, very professional. But, like, while I was sitting in that chair, I was just, like, about to freak out.
Okay, so in the chair with the stylist.
Yeah,
Not like just waiting.
No. Like, I was in the chair, and, like, she was cutting my hair, and I was like, okay, no big deal. And it was just like, boom, freak out. I was like, what the hell is going on?
What else was going on in your life at that time, my
Nothing.
friend?
It wasn't anything big. It was, as soon as I walked out of there, I was fine, but I was like, I can't go back there. Like, I can't. And it's nothing against them. They run a great business. If
Maybe
you're
it's
in
the lighting,
Columbia
maybe it's
area.
something else. Luckily, oddly enough, they now have competition in that. So I think there's another downtown shop or two that will serve, that has a liquor license.
There you
with
go.
lower lighting. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe it's the style.
it was the lighting. That's what it was. It
Yeah.
was the lighting.
Yeah. Not too unlike this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
for anybody who don't know, I have very handmade lighting in here. It's very what I'm going to call redneck. And I may post pictures of that because it's kind of funny. But
no, I'm waiting for you to take one of these masks off when coronavirus gets like peak, and just like,
yeah.
I know where a mask is right now.
Well, yeah, I was watching the news.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the thing I don't like to do, and I was watching the news. So the masks that I have up there are just your basic dust masks. They're covering LED bulbs. And they're nothing special, just kind of light softeners. With those masks, it can actually make viruses worse because you're constantly touching your face to take it on, take it off, to move it around. It can actually help spread that virus.
I believe that.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. You're not supposed to touch your face. Apparently, washing hands is new to people. I didn't know that. I don't get it. I touch my face a lot, but I also use Germ-X and wash my hands like a crazy person. So,
well, I mean, before we started, we were talking about Fallout, and I'm thinking of all these like dystopian futures that I love and all this kind of thing. I feel like this is just I'm waiting for the novel that says, all right, here's the coronavirus. It's killing everyone over age 40, and we're going full dystopian wasteland, Lord of the Fly styles.
See, and me and my wife joke about that. We're like, back when Korea was gonna nuke us and all that, and I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. Like I've had years of experience in this.
Exactly. I mean, it's only one mutation away to say, instead of being highly effective against everyone over the age 60, it's going to be everyone over the age 20, and like going, all right, I'm gonna I've now have my life plans for my daughter to hand her off to this 12-year-old that I trust in our cul-de-sac for when that eventuality happens.
There you go.
It's like, you will raise my daughter when the plague takes us all.
When the plague takes all the adults.
Yeah.
You are going to be responsible.
Yeah.
So we'll get back on top. We got a little.
You don't want more wasteland rumors where we're gonna go? No.
I mean, we can talk about the wasteland all day because with coronavirus and we've got presidential election. Who knows what the news is going to come up with next?
I don't know. I don't want to dig into this, but the thing that has occurred to me today is with the coronavirus. I feel like how will elections even work if going to a polling place could be a natural health hazard? But that's not this podcast to answer that question.
That is not this podcast.
But I'm waiting for the news cycle to catch up on that question to say, how does we saw what happened in Iowa? How does one vote when you have to vote in person in mass in any election? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. And like I said, we're not getting into politics here. If you have your own view, keep it to yourself. But I always thought that was interesting that, we've got this mass pandemic of a virus that we've had around for years. This is not a new virus.
Yeah.
If you check your Lysol can, the SARS coronavirus is on that can.
It is.
And Lysol does kill 99.9% of germs. So please, if you're not getting toilet paper, go ahead and get some Lysol.
Yeah. The best thing I came up with today is I got one of those pump tops, and I just leave it in my car because you can have disinfectant all you want in your house, but if you're in your house, you're not meeting new people. But if you're out and about, you're meeting new people constantly and going in unknown. Like, I'm just going to keep disinfecting my car because I know, if I'm walking into anything, I want to disinfect. Have that at the ready if I need it.
No, at my desk I have it's like this big of Germ-X.
Nice.
Because I share a desk with 3 people. And they've got one at that end. I've got one at my end. We're constantly going out, meeting with customers, talking to people. So it's like, okay, yep, Germ-X. You've got to have it. Okay.
Have you gotten any preppers come in buying RVs yet? Because I could see that to say, I'm just going to go off the grid. We're going to wait this thing to pass.
I've had people tell me they want to go off the grid.
Yeah.
And I don't believe them. But, they say they're going off the grid and they're going to move to Colorado in the mountains and they're never coming back and they don't care about the power hookups or the freshwater hookups or anything like that. They just need a place to live, but they want all the solar panels. Got to have all the solar panels.
Oh, okay.
Because they're going off the grid. They'll never be found again. And I'm like, that's great if I believed you. I just don't believe them.
Well, yeah.
If they actually did do it, I would be surprised, and I'd actually be very intrigued. I'd want to know like how you live off the grid, and they've got TV shows and stuff like that. But
oh yeah,
with the way things are today, you can't go off the grid without being on somebody's property and invading somebody's space. Like,
Yeah, for the most part. Public land is not as plentiful as you think as it used to be.
exactly. And if you go and start living on it, they're going to have a problem with it, and they're going to tell you to leave.
Yeah.
So unless you just went and bought 1,000 acres in a new camper and slapped it out there, you might still have problems with the zoning commission for being out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, back on topic. Now we're back. Hey, well, welcome back, guys. Sorry for that. So, Jonathan, how do you stay on your grind? How do you keep going and trying to press forward with, your e-commerce is, that, and you've got some other things going on too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always consulting and helping, because while I had to give up my small business, I love still working with small businesses. I'm, huge in the community on that part of it, and also the entrepreneurial scene. What I love about Columbia is that there's so many great startups that have started out here through Startup Weekend and other economic things, because between the university, the city, and just kind of the culture that we've cultivated here, it's a really great place for people in the Midwest to kind of see their ideas to fruition. Equipment Share is a huge company that we have here in town that started out from a startup weekend where it's just, a couple guys coming together with an idea, getting it pitched, and literally going from a PowerPoint to a real business in 3 days.
That's awesome.
And there's been multiple stories where we've gotten to tell that here in Columbia in different, permutations. We have great programs that come up through the various universities. And I love being tied into that. And then you still have the because you are still an entrepreneur if you're starting your own business.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's great coffee roasteries, pizza chains, all that have started here and kind of, became household not just to the region but even further, including Logboat as a brewery, same idea. Yeah. So I will constantly kind of help them with their ideas, with their marketing, because you're still selling yourself and your product regardless if it's online or whether, and digital marketing is such a huge facet of that, because that's where the eyeballs are, and that's kind of how you work through it. But that's a roundabout way of answering your question.
No, I get it. I mean, that's usually how most people answer that question. They start off, it's never like one thing. It's like, I wake up every morning, crush 3 eggs, and think about everything I want to do today. Nobody's ever said that.
No.
Because I don't believe that's a good way to do that. Don't do that. But I mean, there's always motivators in everybody's life. I mean, a lot of people it's family, a lot of people it's, the income they make.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of like you said, it's the ability to help people and to grow that entrepreneurship,
Yeah, and that's what I've loved the most. One of the things that's really great that I've personally taken towards in almost every job I've had is the idea of growing and learning. Not just for me, because I mean, I'll take in podcasts or readings, this and that, and other things to try and make sure that I'm staying up and working on best practices. But I always work it from a team. So most of my jobs, if I'm coming in as a consultant, then I'm just joining your team and your mission to make your business successful, to get more people in the door, or help turn a table at a restaurant, or to buy more widgets on your website. Or when I'm working, in my normal, 9 to 5 in any career, I'm building a team, and that's actually been the funnest part, is mentoring people, helping them build their own specialization, whether it's, bringing somebody in as, when I first started here, I was working for the university. So the first team I got to build was a team of interns. And now, that same team of interns that I helped build are now, IT directors, creative directors, starting their own businesses. And then every business I've worked in since, I just work on that same idea of building a team, because, as a team, you can build a great product, a great experience. And that's really what excites me day to day, is working in there, knowing that I have a team behind me and, making it happen for them. In addition to myself, where we can, work on a new project together. Because whether it's designing a new website, launching a new product, or customer experience, we're coming in there and we're just working together just to crush it, for one of our brands or one of our clients.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I always, I mean, you've got to be able to take care of everybody on your team. And I mean, the joy you can get from that, you know, and take that in its own accord, you know, like that's why I feel like I do some of the things I do. Like this podcast, this is strictly for me, and it sounds selfish, but it is.
Yeah.
Like I do it as a hobby. I love to do it. I love to meet new people. I love to drink beer. And at the same time, I love sales. I love everything around it. So, like, being able to talk about it and different aspects and different versions of it, drink beer, meet new people, this is a great source for me to relax. It sounds weird because this is a second job in itself. But, you know, it's fun. I love doing it.
So that's probably the biggest insight that I can get from when you're telling me this story is that, you know, when I started the bar, any of these other experiences, the thing you got to always keep in your head is, you know, we had ups and downs when we were starting our own small business where, hey, it's our dream to the point where the dream is working us, you know? So, I mean, that partly led to the decision when we finally said, hey, we're going to have to let this bar go because it was working a second job. It was working us and we weren't working it. And that's that same idea. Sometimes you chase the dream to say, hey, you know, you hear the common thing is like, oh, if you do what you love, you're never working a day in your life. It's not always true because if you do what you love, but then familiarity sometimes breeds content. Then you go, oh, because this is my business, I don't love it as much anymore, and I've ruined the thing that I love. Yeah. And then you're letting something else slide. You know, burnout's real, regardless if you're working one job or three jobs. So, I mean, the biggest thing, you know, whatever you're doing, if this is your way of relaxing is running this podcast, make sure it's doing that first and foremost so you're taking care of yourself. You know, your doctor will tell you, and you'll always never listen to them, but they're right. They're saying you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of someone else.
Exactly. One of the greatest things that follows up that point, anytime you fly, if you've ever flown, they always tell you to put on your mask before you help children or other people. And I had a discussion with somebody about that, and they were like, no, I would totally put a mask on my kid first. And we had a debate about it. And it wasn't an argument, but it was a healthy debate. If you don't take care of yourself first, how are you supposed to take care of them later?
Exactly.
You know, it's not being selfish to put your mask on first or, you know, to take care of them first. You've got to be able to keep yourself healthy. You've got to be able to keep yourself awake in a plane incident. But you've still got to take care of them too. You know, like it's weird because I didn't expect anybody to give me some kickback on that. Like, you have to take care of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And to argue the fact that you would put it on your kid first, put yourself in jeopardy, leaving them even more abandoned later. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, what's the you'd have to calm your child, you know, after when, you know, what's going on and take care of them. What happens if you haven't, you know, you can go in all the what ifs, but yeah, you're right. It's the next thing that you have to help them through.
Exactly.
So
speaking of family, you are a family man. You've got
we just welcomed our first in December.
Okay. So, boy or girl?
Girl.
Okay. So she's just a couple months old.
Oh, yeah, just a few months old.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
We had to recently stop, aging her by weeks, and finally said, all right, we're going to call her 3 months instead of like 10 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. 129, 30 weeks, you know.
Yeah,
like
whatever.
So this provokes my next question. Has your job, either with the bar or e-commerce, ever affected your relationship or home life?
It honestly really had. I don't want to dig too deep into it, but I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, if you're, I forget where it was, but I mean, if you they say you have those 4 pillars, exercise, health, relationships, and work. And the best of us can barely keep, 2 of those satisfactory at any given time. So if you're constantly working late hours and, constantly working at relationship, your health and exercise is going to deteriorate. So you always have to keep that balance. And we work in such a world where we're constantly, pressured to do multiple things, both social pressure from seeing other people's Instagram and other things, so you had to work it. So, I will say a big part of, also letting the bar go was the idea of like reestablishing a baseline in my personal life so I could put time towards what mattered, because you have to evaluate that constantly to say, hey, between my normal job and between my fun entrepreneurial project, can this work out? What's suffering? How do I make this work out? Now we're planning for a family. Well, I'm going to have to make room for it, not just physically, like by making a nursery, but in my own time and personal space, and financially, how does that happen?
Exactly. And I mean, it's always been a thing with me and my wife is I work so much. I'm 60, 70, 80 hours a week. It doesn't, there's no end to how long I can work. They would keep me there overnight if they could.
I bet.
I mean, it's crazy because, I mean, in that big of a company, they want you to work all the time, no matter what. It doesn't matter. I mean, when I first started, Sundays were a big thing for me. Like, I did not want to work Sundays. I have a religious background, and I wanted to keep that. I wanted to be able to wake up and go to church on Sunday. And with this company, they were like, best we can do is every other week.
Yeah.
You can have Sunday off. I was like, okay, I'll take it,
I mean, and that's good because, I mean, at the very least, I mean, more than anything else, it's setting boundaries and expectations. I found what worked with me. I mean, and then the other part is you do need to sometimes occasionally say, I mean, if you're working that kind of job, I had that with the bars, like, your spouse has to come first.
Absolutely. In
some way, shape, or form. So if you're picking up on those signals, or you don't think you see those signals, make sure you're constantly looking for them, because, sometimes they're subtle. And you have to go, all right, I need to drop this and focus on me and my spouse, or my family life, or my friendship, whatever it is that you are looking at that could be affected by working that extra shift, or seeing it differently. Because 9 times out of 10, you walk into your daily job, you're going to be putting out fires right and left, but at the end of the day, you're just putting out those fires. They don't have any longevity to them. The moment the fire's done, it doesn't have any sustainable effect on your life.
Yep.
But your relationships do, and what those fires do to your relationship, can sometimes be irreparable. So, I mean, that's another big thing, I try to impart sometimes to these entrepreneurs in small business, because, running a business of your own, it's completely like running, having a child. So when I ran that bar was the child. And the kicker is when I realized, the child we welcomed is going to grow up and God help us take care of us someday.
Yeah.
The bar never was. It was going to stay an infant forever. It was going to be an infant forever, whiny, needy, constantly needing things. And you had to go, is this going to be worth it long term?
Yeah. No, and that's it. I mean, to anybody who's considering having a child or starting a business, I mean, you've got to look at the longevity of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think in today's world, especially when it comes to both, children or jobs, they're not thinking about the long-term effects of having a kid or what causes a kid. They're just thinking about the instant gratification of, I'm a business owner. You know, I did it. Well, you still got to make a profit. You still got to pay the bills. You still got to make payroll.
Exactly.
You still got to pay your taxes. Like, you have so much left to do. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Wait 5 years and see if you're either still in business or about to drown and go under.
The best business plan you can prepare before you start the business or seek investors or anything is what is the plan of action that takes you out of your own business?
Exactly.
To the point that the business runs itself, that you can hire a GM, that you can do whatever you want and have time for your family or the next venture. If you don't, it's kind of like, when someone starts a great TV show and they know the ending in mind. When you start that business plan, know the ending and have a good outline of how you get there. Not a vague idea. This isn't Lost or anything like this where you go, oh, I'm just going to show a white light to Jack at the end. I was like, all right, how are we going to get there? A to B? I don't know. But, you have that good idea because, and then know where you can, monitor yourself to say, am I hitting those goals that get us there? If not, what needs to change or do I need to get out?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You've got to know when to call it quits. You've got to know when either, you're not making it as a business owner, or even if you're a salesperson struggling so bad, you're anxiety ridden.
Right, you got quotas and such, right?
If you can't handle the pressure, just get out. Try and find something else that maybe is better for you, because all you're going to do is hurt yourself and dig you a bigger hole than you're already in.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be afraid to call it quits, but don't be afraid to ask for help either.
Exactly. And if your job, whatever it is, maybe you aren't working the extra hours, but if you are constantly coming home and still feeling that burden of your 9 to 5, even if you clocked out, then it might not be where you need to be. Because that was the other part. Because even if I was home and I didn't have to be there working at the bar, I was thinking that mental load of what needed to be done or what wasn't getting done because I was home.
Yeah.
You can't have that in there. You need to be present where you are and be able to disconnect when you're not.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've really taken to heart these last few years in my current role, to be able to say, I know my team and the processes and the structure put in place are working as I'm sitting here talking to you. I know my websites are making money and making a great customer experience. I don't have to think about it. It doesn't weigh me stress. And then I know I can go in first thing, at 8:00 tomorrow morning, and then see what we did, make improvements. What's the next, customer experience we're going to launch, the next product we're going to talk about, and kind of go from there.
There you go. And that's what it is at the end of the day. You've got to be able to unplug. You've got to be able to, like you said, disconnect. And if it is still weighing on you like that, you've got to figure out what you can do to disconnect, to turn the switch off, and that's one thing that I have a problem with, because I'm still excited.
Oh yeah.
It's not a worry. Like, I'm excited about what we're going to do tomorrow and next week and next month. That I've learned how to just shut it off. Because when I come home, I have to spend time with my wife, and I want to spend time with my wife and learn about her day and see what she's done. But there's still a part of me that wants to pick up my phone, check the reports, check the emails, and I've learned to put it away. I've got to unplug myself, and I'm not depressed about it. I'm excited about it, and it's still a problem. It's one thing that I'm working on, because I'm not giving her the time she needs either when I'm doing that. So it's all a big juggle, especially in the sales world. So
that's why we're doing this, like 5 o'clock. So I know I can go home after this, listen to my wife's day. She's going to tell me about the awesome things our daughter did at daycare, and we did all these things, and we're plan out our next trip.
You're going to Disney World?
No, she would kill me. No. Full outdoorsy. We're road tripping it.
There you
go from there and there.
That's awesome.
Why I was asking you about, I need a rental RV one of these days.
We don't rent them. If we would, I would gladly.
We'll make that business happen. That'll be the next entrepreneurial thing. Yeah, I feel that's why those businesses do so well. It's like, all right, I don't have to physically be in my website. I can make the idea, make the tool run, regardless if I'm here drinking a beer or sipping a Mai Tai and Cabo. It doesn't matter.
There you go. Well, man, that's about all the time we got. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thanks to Mother's Brewing Company for this delicious winter grind, the coffee stout out of Springfield. And Jonathan, is there anything you'd like to say before we go off?
No, I mean, it was just awesome to be here. It was a pleasure. So thanks, Clint.
I appreciate you coming, man. Guys, feel free to check us out. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, all major podcasting platforms. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook. That's my most active platform. And we will check you later.
Helping the customer buy. Helping him to know the product. Helping him see sales features that he, in turn, can use to sell them. That's part of selling. How well could you do it?